Expect to spend a significant amount of time in this unit. There's a lot here and it'll require some study. In the last unit, we learned how to use a 5-step process to build a major scale on any tonic. In that unit, we worked in keys that use sharps, except for the C major scale. Remember, the C major scale requires no sharps or flats because the naturally occurring half steps happen to be in the right places. You may have noticed the need to use the note E sharp when building the F sharp major scale. If you play an E sharp on your guitar, you'll see that it's the same note as an F natural. Remember the term enharmonic equivalent? That's what E sharp and F are. So why don't we just call that note an F? It's because we have to use all the letters of the musical alphabet when spelling scales. That's A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. That's all. So when you are in the key of F sharp, that first fret on your low E string is not an F, it's an E sharp. You may have also noticed the need to use the notes E sharp and B sharp when building the C sharp major scale. Again, if you play an E sharp on your guitar, you'll see it's the same note as an F natural. You'll also see that the B sharp is the same note as a C natural. E sharp and F are enharmonic equivalents, and B sharp and C natural are too. So why don't we just call the B sharp a C? Same reason as before. We have to use all the letters of the musical alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. So let's dive into key signatures. What if you wrote a song in the key of A and you wanted to write the melody on the staff? Let's remember from the work you did in the last unit that the A major scale is A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, and G sharp. The notes of the melody will be made up from those scale notes. That means that every time you want the melody note to be a C sharp, F sharp, or G sharp, you'll have to write a sharp sign in front of every single C, F, or G. It wouldn't take long for this to become very tedious, and in addition, the music would have a very cluttered look on the page. This is where a key signature comes in. Over time, the modern key signature system evolved, and here's how it works. Rather than writing sharp signs in front of every C, F, and G when writing a song in the key of A, we collect the sharps and place them in a formation at the beginning of the piece of music, right after the clef sign. With a key signature, the musician knows that all C's written after the key signature are C sharps, all F's are F sharps, and all G's are G sharps. That's what a key signature is. It's the collection of sharps or flats required for a given key. Again, they're placed at the beginning of the piece of music directly after the clef sign. This saves us from having to write dozens, if not hundreds, of sharp or flat signs throughout a piece of music. Now, a sharp in a key signature can be canceled temporarily through the use of what's called a natural sign. A natural sign is a device that returns a sharped or flatted note to a natural position. So let's imagine your song is in the key of A and it has a melody note not in the key of A. For example, maybe a G natural. So if you place a natural sign in front of the G sharp in the key signature is canceled for the rest of that measure only. Now, if later in the same measure you would like the melody note to be G sharp, simply write a sharp sign in front of the G. But know that the natural sign will only affect the note it is placed in front of for the duration of that measure. Once the piece of music passes to the next bar line, the key signature is back in effect. Let's get back to key signatures. Know that all keys have a key signature. Even the key of C has a key signature, and that key signature is no sharps or flats. So how do we figure this out? It's pretty interesting. Pay close attention to the next step. It's really important for knowing key signatures. I'm going to list the major scales we worked on in the last unit and show the notes that needed to be sharped in order for the interval formula to work. As we work through the G, D, A, E, B, F sharp, and C sharp major scales, you may have noticed a pattern emerging. The G major scale requires an F sharp to satisfy the formula. The D major scale requires an F sharp and a C sharp to satisfy the formula. The A major scale requires an F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp to satisfy the formula. The E major scale requires an F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp to satisfy the formula. The B major scale requires an F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, and A sharp to satisfy the formula. The F sharp major scale requires an F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, and E sharp to satisfy the formula. And the C sharp major scale requires an F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, and B sharp to satisfy the formula. Do you see the pattern? This pattern is called the order of sharps. F, C, G, D, A, E, B. Memorize it. We'll come back to this a little later in this unit. Now that you see this information written on the table of sharps, let's talk about how to actually write a key signature on the staff. The first sharp, F sharp, is placed on the top line. The line should pierce the middle of the sharp sign. The second sharp, C sharp, is placed on the third space. The third sharp, G sharp, is placed on the space immediately above the top line. The fourth sharp, D sharp, is placed on the fourth line. The fifth sharp, A sharp, is placed on the second space. The sixth sharp, E sharp, is placed on the top space. The seventh sharp, B sharp, is placed on the middle line. Compare the table of sharp keys with the graphic of the key signatures on the staff for each key. When writing key signatures, it is critical to place the sharps in the specific location you see on the screen. Don't deviate or it'll just look silly. Here are a couple of hints when writing key signatures. Don't crowd the sharps or flats together and do not spread them out too far. They should each occupy a vertical lane. When experienced musicians see a key signature, they don't actually count the number of sharps or flats or consciously see the specific sharps or flats. They see an image, an icon, or you could think of it as a constellation. The point is, at a glance, they see the key signature and automatically know what key it represents. Think about driving your car and following a Mercedes-Benz. When you see the logo on the rear of the car, is there any doubt what kind of car it is? Key signatures are the same way. Consider this. We need to know this information two ways. We need to be able to look at a key signature and know what key it represents, or we need to know the opposite. In other words, I know my song is in the key of, say, E. What key signature do I write on the piece of music? Let's look at these two things separately. First, to look at a sharp key signature and know what key it represents, there's a clever little trick. The last sharp written in a key signature is a half step below the tonic, meaning the key. Another way to say that is that the last sharp you see in a key signature is the seventh of the scale, also called a leading tone. See how the last sharp points to the tonic? Now let's flip that. How can I know what key signature to write if my song is in the key of E? Remember that the last sharp in the key signature will be the seventh of the scale, or a half step below the tonic. So my song is in the key of E. What's a half step below E and the seventh of the scale? It's D sharp. You can't call it E flat because it has to be the seventh, which is a D by definition. Now D sharp has to be the last sharp in the key signature. Think back to the order of sharps, F, C, G, D, A, E, B. Sharps always have to occur in this order. So for the E major key signature, I need the D sharp to be the last one. So E will have F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and the last one, D sharp. 4 sharps. Then remember to write the sharps on the staff the right way and in the right configuration. Here are some definitions. Diatonic. Notes that are diatonic are of the scale. They belong to the scale. So notes diatonic to C would be C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. Notes diatonic to G would be G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp, and so on and so forth. Another term we need to know is chromatic tones. Chromatic tones are notes that are not diatonic, and sometimes they're called non-diatonic notes. So if I'm in the key of C, a D flat would be a non-diatonic note or a chromatic tone. Another term we need to define is accidental. An accidental is a sharp, flat, or natural sign that raises or lowers a note different than what the key signature tells us. Quiz yourself on all the sharp keys in the table. Notice how the pattern of sharps is consistent and never wavers. Practice writing key signatures on staff paper and use some of the apps available to drill yourself on key signature recognition. Expect to spend a significant amount of time in this unit. There's a lot here and it'll require some study. Learn your sharp key signatures and we'll see you in the next unit.